Attention pro athletes. Want to secure your financial legacy and thrive off the field? Oakbridge Wealth Management, led by wealth manager Chris Anicetti, is your dedicated financial planning ally. But don't take it from me. Take it from the Dallas Cowboys' Tyler Biadasz. He says, Chris set goals financially and has been incredibly impactful in my journey in the NFL. Experience our customized, comprehensive approach, trusted by top NFL players. Don't leave your financial success to chance. Connect with Chris on Instagram at OakbridgeWM_Anicetti. That's OakbridgeWM_ANICETE, and let Oakbridge Wealth Management guide you across the goal line.
Welcome back to the Believe in Badgers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, presented by betonline.ag. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Badger legend, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Matt Bernstein. Bernie, how are we doing today?
Living our best lives, Matt Perkins. I'm going to Madison tomorrow. Excited to be here talking with another coach. Man, we are just doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got Coach Nate Letton, tight ends coach. We are very excited to have you here today. Coach, thanks for taking some time out of your very busy schedule.
I really appreciate you guys having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So before we hop into it, though, got to remind you guys that we are presented by betonline.ag, where they continue to be your number one source for all of your online sports wagering needs. You name it, they've got it over there at BetOnline. NHL playoffs, NFL playoffs. By the time you're listening to this, both of those series may be done. Who knows? Either way, MLB, casino games, golf, I mean, you name it, it's over there. MMA, boxing. Head on over to the website. Use your mobile device to sign up today. Get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit with our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.
I've been really looking forward to talking to you because you are, I think, are you the youngest coach on the staff, or is it?
I think I got Spalding beat by a couple years, but I'm definitely on the bottom end of the age spectrum there.
Well, I'm excited to sort of see your perspective, especially here because you're a lot closer in age to a lot of the players, and you sort of really understand like modern college football and what it is like. So I'm excited to talk about that, but we want to go back first to talk a little bit more about younger Nate Letton. Now, you are a Kentucky native, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
All right.
I like to remind everybody of that around here too. So
a little bit. So now, did you grow up in Lexington?
So, both my parents are school teachers. My dad is a high school football coach. I was born, kind of in the Appalachian region. My dad started his coaching career out there in Prestonsburg, Kentucky. We moved more to central Kentucky when I was young, kind of bounced around between Mount Sterling, Paris. But ultimately, I went to high school in Lexington. I lived in a small town about 40 minutes outside of there, but claimed Lexington for the most part. So then went to college in Danville. So I spent quite a few years in Kentucky for sure.
So in that, I assume that you didn't really get up to Wisconsin very much during that time. So what have been your first sort of impressions of the state of Wisconsin and the city of Madison?
Yeah, I mean, when I moved here, December 30th was the first time I'd ever stepped foot in the state of Wisconsin, which, I loved it. I'd never seen frozen lakes before. That was cool when I was driving past the big ones here. But Wisconsin has reminded me, it's been a very easy transition for me because, what I loved about growing up in Kentucky was, the people, very blue collar, honest, hardworking, loyal folks. And that's what you find here in Wisconsin more than anything. I mean, obviously the landscape, the scenery, beautiful. You can't beat it. Obviously, just being in the Big Ten, that's awesome. But, anytime you're making a move, you're making a huge commitment, a big change in your life. Just the folks in the community have made this such a treat to come up here and to immerse yourself in. That's been a lot of fun.
So I guess I want to ask you though, so you said you went to Center College, but you played linebacker there. You were not a tight end. Talk to us about your playing career a little bit and sort of how that shaped you into a coach and sort of what your path as a player was.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot better prospect coming out of high school than I really was. But fortunately, I mean, life, we all know it kind of works in mysterious ways. Playing football at Center College and going there was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I got to play for a guy named Andy Fry, who, aside from Luke Fickell, is in my book, the best person and best football coach I've ever been around. I guess I should, throw my dad in there as well because I played for him too. So, but I learned a tremendous amount. And when I was in college, I just, probably going into my sophomore year or going into my junior year, I was a biology major, thinking I was going to go to med school or something. My GPA quickly told me I wasn't going to do that. But, told my head coach, like, hey, I want to be a coach and, I'd like your help and, making connections and networking. And, he really worked hard for me. It just so happened that, fast forward to the spring break of my senior year, he was like, hey, listen, our receivers coach is leaving. It's a restricted earnings job. It's going to pay you, I think, $3,000 on the year. And I know you don't know much about it, but I know that you'll attack this opportunity and learn what you need to learn. But yeah, to say that first position group that I coached of wide receivers coming from playing linebacker as their teammate, 2 months prior, we probably hit each other a little bit too much and didn't do enough ball drills and things of that nature. But, I just did my best to learn on the fly and learn under pressure. And, I had a lot of comfortability because, Andy Fry believed that I could do that. He gave me the latitude to be able to do that. And, it's something I'll be, forever grateful for.
But, Bernie's having some technical difficulties. He'll be right here in just a second. But
no problem.
You actually coached a bunch of different positions along the offense. You've done O-line, you've done receivers, tight ends.
Yep.
What is the biggest commonality for you across all the different positions, no matter where you're playing?
I really do think, the thing that, and this is why I mentioned, like, why I think Coach Fickell's coaching style resonates with me so much is I don't think there's any replacement for toughness, both physically and mentally. You know what I mean? Like, you may think of receivers and may not think that that's the most, physical, tough position group in the world. But I do think in order to be able to play consistently through the rigors of a season, you have to have a tremendous amount of fortitude and toughness. And that's the type of mentality that no matter what I was trying to accomplish or what the technical skills you needed to play receiver or tight end or O-line was, I felt like if we had a foundation of toughness and then, the connectivity within the room, that we were going to have a chance to be successful because we're going to recruit the right type of players that, fit our culture and fit the room. So, obviously those guys have a lot of different skill sets and things like that. But I thought, again, like I said, if we can be tough, if we can be competitive, we're going to have a chance.
Yeah. So let's talk about this room now that you've inherited, because, the Wisconsin Badgers have a very long tradition at the tight end position, going back to, Owen Daniels, a guy that Bernie played with and roomed with and did things we can't talk about on the podcast with, going, all the way through a bunch of different All-Americans, Travis Beckham, the list goes on and on. What impressed you about the group of guys who are in the room when you arrived? And just talk to us about, sort of what makes the guys in there unique, whether it's on the field or off the field.
Yeah, I think when you just talk about the room as a group, they're highly competitive. I mean, that was the thing I was most excited about because, kind of like I mentioned before, when you get here, you've got the tape of their past, season or seasons. And, obviously you study that to try and have a grasp of, what is their athletic potential? What is their athletic ability? But to me, what you can't really gauge from the tape is like sitting down and talking to a person, seeing them in the weight room, seeing how they interact with their teammates. And I was incredibly pleased with that. Just their approach and their working habits and how they came into the building every day was very professional, was very mature. This tight end room in particular has had, I think I'm, some of the guys' fourth or fifth position coach, so this was in some ways kind of old hat to them. So they knew how to approach this like professionals. So I was really pleased with their maturity, with their willingness to come in with an open mind. And I think that particularly across the team, and you could feel it in the tight end room, like there's alignment to one common goal. And they were going to do whatever we asked them to do to the best of their ability. I mean, when you talk about individuals, I mean, obviously Clay Cundiff has played quite a bit. We didn't have him in the spring. He's, back out running this summer. So we're excited to see kind of where he picks up and what we can expect of him. But obviously he's still got, some time to recover and heal and get comfortable. Jack Eschenbach is a guy that's as athletic as it gets. Obviously he's long and rangy on the perimeter, and I think he made a tremendous amount of progress in the core, in the blocking game, and his willingness and ability to do that. Hayden Rucci's a bruiser, man. I mean, that dude he'll knock your head off, and he's really good at that. But he's not a burner, you know what I mean? But like he knows, and I would say that to him, so I'm not saying anything I haven't told him before, but he really knows. He's played a lot of meaningful football. He knows how to get himself open. He knows how to use his tools. He's just a smart, adaptable football player. Jack Pugh, man, hadn't done a whole lot on Saturday afternoons yet, but he's young. That dude plays as hard as anybody on our football team. His teammates love him. He loves his teammates. He has a tremendous upside. Riley Nowakowski coming from fullback. I mean, that dude might be the smartest guy on our team. He intimidates me a little bit being in the room. Like, dude, you got to tone it down a little bit, okay? But he's just all these guys. And, JT Seagraves, Angel Toombs. I mean, I don't want to leave anybody out with, Cam Large and Cole Dokovich being injured. But we have a lot of guys who can do a lot of jobs really well. We just have to figure out through the summer training cycle into the fall training camp, right? Like, what combination of people best gives us the opportunity to win on Saturday afternoon. So we're still trying to answer that question.
Absolutely. We'll talk about what's going to be happening on Saturday afternoons. This offense, this air raid offense under Phil Longo, is a little bit different than what you guys were running with Coach Gino at Cincinnati. Talk to us about the similarities and differences in between the two, and then sort of what's been the hardest part as a coach to adapt to the new system.
Sure. I mean, I think just, obviously all of us still coach for the same head coach, right? The common factor there is Luke Fickell. And, I know that there's still going to be a tremendous commitment to running the football. I think just the way we approach doing that might look a little bit differently, right? We might be a little bit more spread out running the football. We're obviously going to be in the shotgun running the football, playing a little bit more tempo. We might add some RPO elements that maybe didn't exist or be quite as prevalent as they were in the past. I've mentioned this before. I think to me as a coach, what you have to adapt your coaching style to is sometimes we can outsmart ourselves. We can make the game a little bit too rigid. We can make the game a little bit too confined with too many rules, too many parameters. And I think what this offense does, as well as anything that I've been around up to this point in my career, is it really gives a lot of freedom to our players, right? And, now it takes a lot on the front end to be able to teach them, hey, how do I fit holistically within this scheme, right? What is my job in this scheme? Okay. And then where can I get myself open in the pass game? Right. And I think that took me a little bit of time to adjust to, but obviously Phil does a great job teaching it to us as coaches before we go out and try and teach it to our players. But there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of latitude. There's a lot of rope for those guys, but that's the beauty of the offense is we put really good players in positions to be comfortable and not fear failure and go out and attack the football and make plays.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting because I think there's going to be a lot of more opportunities for the tight ends to really get out in space and make space as everyone is spread out wider than we are used to seeing. Right. And so it's definitely going to be a new look for the position at Wisconsin. In this offense, what do you think is the most important attribute for one of your players to have?
It'd be hard to say like, hey, what's one thing, because the tight ends are involved in so many things. But I think to me, the thing that a tight end has to be able to do is they have to be able to, they've got to be able to play in space consistently in this offense more than they have in the past, right? Like, not only in the route running component, but in the screen game, we're detached out there on the perimeter. Maybe we're going to ask you to block a nickel. We were doing that a lot in the spring, which is challenging for those guys at first because, you're talking about a lot of short area quickness across from you that maybe we're not used to handling. So we've had to, curtail some of our individual drill work to being able to handle those things. Right. But at the end, I hate to say just one thing, like they got to have a willingness to block. They got to love their teammates. They got to have great bend and change of direction. And they got to be able to high point the football. They got to be able to beat guys one-on-one. And to me, that collection of talents is what makes this position so unique. It's such a highly developmental position. It's such a skilled position. That's why I love coaching, because you're involved in all the elements. And, if you put yourself in, peg yourself as a one-trick pony, you're gonna have a hard time seeing the field as much as you want. So we're trying to develop guys that can do all the jobs we want them to do.
So let's talk about then, like, what are the biggest challenges then you face to get those guys ready this summer in particular for, week 1 against Buffalo, their first time, playing this offense when it really matters?
Well, the thing, for the summer, we do these evaluations after the spring, right? And, that was really our first time to really evaluate the guys, right? And, I do an evaluation, exit meeting with them. Hey, here's where I think you stand holistically. Here are the skills that I think you have to get better at. And then we take that information as we get back in the summer, we can individualize things that they need to do, right? Like, for instance, okay, like take Jack Eschenbach, and we've had this conversation. He's one of our top end guys out on the perimeter. Like there are a couple of, minor things that we need to clean up in the run game. Here are the drill work, here are the drills that we want you to be able to emphasize. Maybe here's some of the movements in the weight room. We coordinate with the strength staff and Brady and his guys, that we want these guys to focus on, because it's going to enhance their ability come Saturday afternoons, right? And all of them are, have proficiencies and deficiencies, right? And that's my job as a coach to highlight the proficiencies and, clean up the deficiencies. And that's kind of what we go about doing in the summer with all those guys. And they all have kind of a unique and individualized plan.
So I missed 16 minutes of this whole thing, and I'm on my phone now, which is awesome. Which is really chafing me a lot because, Coach, I reading your background and reading all the things that I'm sure you guys have touched on it, playing linebacker, doing all these other positions, that excites me. You, from like every other fifth sentence I heard, the fullback.
Right.
What's it like? So can you just, because I played fullback, if you could tell, my neck is kind of gone. Looks like you and I would have had some good battles back in the day.
Well, you were playing on a much different level than I was. Okay. So
listen, every level is amazing to me. But my thought is like, Longo said no more fullbacks, which makes me sad, but I get it. What's it like that for what's it been like for the fullbacks though, coming to be a tight end, and how are you going to use them maybe just a little differently, because they're not the same kind of build, maybe skill set as the other guys, just because I'm selfish and I want to know like how I would be used in this offense?
Sure. I think the answer to that question is, right, like, okay, we may not have an I back anymore, right? We may not be lining up in a 3-point stance right behind the quarterback, right? But I'm sure the jobs you did is you were kicking out the 9 technique on 2-back power, right? Maybe you were, cutting off the backside of inside zone or outside zone. We're still going to do all those jobs, right? So we just may line up in a little bit different position. You know what I mean? So I don't think that necessarily just because those guys were fullbacks that we've eliminated their skill set or their job description, right? We just might line them up somewhere a little bit differently. I really only inherited Riley Nowakowski coming from this spring. And I said this in one of the media sessions back in spring practice. I mean, I've been as impressed with him as anybody on our football team. I mean, that's a tough, cerebral, intelligent. He can do all the job. Like when things happen so quickly back there in the backfield, like, you learn how to play out of position quite a bit. You learn how to adjust things when they're messy. He does that as well as anybody, just because he's had to do it and he's played a couple different positions in his time here. So, we may not be a true fullback, but we're still doing some of the dirty work on that front too.
Oh man, you bring back all these good memories of kicking out the 9 and cutting off the backside on zone. Oh my God. I forgot about a lot of those things, but you're right.
We're doing all the same stuff, You're
just going to line up in a different place and do it from there.
Exactly right.
Has he been able to that position used to be just like a downhill blocker dude. How's his transition, like catching the ball, running routes? Like that stuff was always much more difficult for some guys who are straight downhill, like kind of hitters.
Right. And I guess that would be the difference is I don't know. And I'm probably speaking out of turn. I don't know exactly everything, but he maybe wasn't like a true fullback. I think he adapted to that position too. So all of them, right? Like I have a certain way that I want to coach route technique. And then also Coach Longo has ways that he, certain plays or certain parameters that he wants set, right?
Attention athletes. Do you want a frictionless and tailored financial planning experience to secure your future? Well, look no further. Introducing Oakbridge Wealth Management, the premier financial planning firm for professional athletes. Led by wealth manager Chris Anicetti, our team provides a unique and comprehensive approach, ensuring your financial success both on and off the field. We understand the unique challenges you face as a professional athlete, from managing cash flow habits to planning major business purchases and navigating complex contracts. That's why we've developed a proven process, working closely with our strategic partners to provide seamless solutions for your unique financial journey. Our services evolve with your career, offering short, mid, and long-term goal setting, portfolio optimization, real estate investments, and more. As you transition to life beyond the field, we support you with career development and philanthropic ventures. But don't just take our word for it. Top NFL players like Chase Boulier, Tyler Biadasz, Alec Ingold, and more trust Oakbridge Wealth Management to guide them towards financial success. Troy Dye of the Minnesota Vikings says, "I really love the work that Chris and the rest of the Oakbridge group do. I especially like the honesty and transparency when it comes to setting up financial goals and plans that best fit my needs and situation. It's time to elevate your financial game plan. Connect with Chris on Instagram at OakbridgeWM_Anicetti. That's OakbridgeWM_ANICETE. And join the winning team."
Fingers crossed we are all going to be working on the internet today. But again, Coach, like I have to imagine that even like, especially in recruiting these days, like you deal with this kind of stuff all the time.
Organized chaos, man. Organized chaos all the time. It's just how we like it. So this is nothing new. I think the question was, how did Riley specifically, but I guess the point was everybody, when you have a new staff and a new an offense, such as the one that we brought here, that is quite a bit different operationally than what they've done in the past. Everybody had so much growth to do, but Riley, like I said, he's so smart, he's so conscientious, he wants to get better. You tell these guys to do something, they're going to do it exactly the way you want it, which is awesome. As a coach, I mean, you can't ask for anything better, and they work very diligently at it. So all those guys have just done a great job adapting to the pass game.
Matt Perkins, I'm assuming you probably asked this question, but I'm going to ask it again because I was here but couldn't hear anything. Nate, what's it been like to be working with Coach Phil Longo, who I think is a genius when it comes to, he'll never say that, but like really what he's done in college football in the offense is special. I'm thrilled and like excited to see what the product is on the field, but like, what's it like for you to be be working in collaboration with him?
I'll tell you what's a funny short story, but I just finished my first year of coaching college football at Center College. I was transitioning from being the receivers coach to now the tight ends coach. Our offensive coordinator there, a guy named Tony Joe White, is a Texas native. And our head coach gave us a little bit of professional development money for us to go travel around on spring break and visit with some folks. And one of those places was Sam Houston State. They had this offense coordinator guy named Phil Longo who's setting the world on fire. There was some miscommunication on our end about what day we were going to be there. We were a day early, and they're in the middle of spring ball. And the dude met with us for like 10 hours straight. It was unbelievable. He had no idea we were going to be there. So I think that just kind of speaks to the type of guy he is. He's a football junkie. He's a really, easy guy to get along with. And, really – there's no the thing I like about Phil so much and what I appreciate about him so much is like the only thing he wants to do is win. You know what I mean? So there's very little, ulterior motive. There's no ego. It's like, hey, here's the offense we're running. How can we make it better? Who do we need to put in the right positions, and who gives us the best chance to win? So that's what it's been great. I don't want to sing his praises too much in case he sees this. Okay, but it's been a lot of fun, and for him to the way I got here was a little bit unique. Coming on initially and then off the field capacity, and then Gino leaving, and he didn't know me that well. He was incredibly supportive in me kind of moving into that role, and it's something I'm really deeply appreciative for.
That's so cool. So, sorry, Matt, did you have a question? Because I got like 100.
I asked all the questions in the first half. Now it's you here and out, buddy.
Coach, you're in a. First off, I think the tight end position at Wisconsin is extremely special. I think you've had historically like big dudes who block, guys who can actually get out and still catch footballs, but big monsters. Like Sigmund comes to mind. This is before my time,
right?
And Martinelli, and you had some other guys, but then you got Tony Pisciotti, who I played with. But then you got guys like Owen Daniels and
right.
Travis Beckham. You're talking about like the tight end position at Wisconsin is really, to me, it's revolutionized kind of everything we've ever been able to do. How cool is it to coach that room? But you're also coaching half the guys who have run the Super Bowl are tight ends from Wisconsin. It's kind of bananas. What's it like to be in your 30s and coaching that room, but like just coaching that room at Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, it's never lost on me the privilege I have, and I like to think I work hard and do a good job, but I mean, there's a tremendous amount of luck that comes into this business too, right? I'm not naive enough to not believe that, but to be a place just from a program standpoint like Wisconsin with such an unbelievable history of not only playing at the highest level, but to do it the right way, right? And I think we all kind of know what we're talking about on that front. Like, Wisconsin has been the model of consistency and excellence for a long, long time and doing it a particular way. And that's something I think when you talk about the tight end position, kind of the least specialized group, right? Kind of, you have to almost embody that, I'll do whatever it takes. So if we got to run the ball 50 times, I'll block 50 times. If I got to catch the football 50 times, I'll do that too. You know what I mean? Whatever it takes. And I love, kind of that mentality that and that tradition within that room. And I think we got a bunch of guys in there right now that, in 10 years, we're going to be talking about them the same way, which I think is really, really neat and really special. And like I said, I hate to – sometimes I feel like when I get on these things and I just say I'm so grateful, it's like, oh, my God, I just sound like a sap. But really, that's how I feel. It really does, like, it feels so – I hate the word surreal, but it does feel surreal. And I feel incredibly, like I said, privileged. And it's something that we have to work tremendously hard to make sure that we honor it the right way.
Listen, I love the way that the whole coaching staff has answered that question it to me in the best way possible. I mean, it is surreal. Like,
right.
Like coming in, you're coaching at the University of Wisconsin, which, I mean, maybe for Matt and I, it's the best place in the world.
It's the best place in the world for me too, man.
I know, but like, I just love it. Like, I'm going back. My wife's from there. Like, I want my daughter to go there. I'm already emailing admissions. She's 2. So like, it's just so nice to see that the coaching staff has like really just embraced,
right.
bought in. That's what we always say, and embraced like this culture. And I think you guys are only just going to polish it up and make it even better. It's just so cool to me.
Well, I appreciate that. We hope so. We're working hard to make, all Badger fans and folks that love this place, really proud. So.
You mentioned you came over from Cincinnati originally to do QC, which in a lot of ways was a quote unquote step back, right? You were a position coach at Cincinnati, but you decided to take a quality control job, which is an off the field job at Wisconsin. What made you want to make that particular jump? And now it's worked out for you great, in the way that, you're back on the field already, but what made you have that leap of faith to take a job that some would deem less than the one you had before? Sure.
To me, Coach Fickle, I wasn't done learning, and he's a tremendous person. He's a tremendous football coach. I got to work for him for 2 years as a grad assistant. And then I got promoted in, I think, February officially. And then obviously, you get 10 months with a guy and you're in a particular role. I think you're craving a little more, And then obviously, like we just talked about, to me, Wisconsin is like that. that's a destination job. You know what I mean? It's the Big Ten. It's a Big Ten, program that has won. It's not a Big Ten program that, doesn't have the tradition, right? So to me, it was a no-brainer. I wanted to continue working with Coach Fickell and the guys that came from Cincinnati. I think they do it the right way. And like I said, I mean, you can't hide your age, right? I'm a young coach. I understand that. And, I'm eager to, continue learning and growing and getting better. And, why would you leave, if you have an opportunity to come and stay and maybe take on a role that, isn't exactly what you want to do, but you still have the opportunity to for the growth that you're, looking for. I thought, why not? So I'm glad I did, worked out.
Yeah. From my, I've met Coach Fickell twice, and from everything that I've garnered from those 2 short times is that he shoots straight. And I have to believe, Coach, that even though it was a quality control position, I have to believe, you don't have to say yes or no, that there was some behind, listen, if you stick with it, you're going to be there one day. We're going to take you. It's just right now, this is what we can do.
Right. There were conversations that were had, and I'll keep those private. But yeah, I would not have come. I guess I'll say this. I would not have come if I didn't trust Luke Fickell and his, I believe he cares about our program at large, right? That's what he's paid to do. Okay. But I know that he cares about me individually. And I knew that, whether it's 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, whenever that opportunity presented itself, I knew I'd have an opportunity to move in. So I felt comfortable with that. And, he's done right by me ever since I first started working for him. So, like I said, it was an easy decision, to be honest.
Coach, so being a running back, I got to ask, you come in and you see that room with maybe one of the next best running backs in the nation.
Right.
What's it like to just be like, man, I'm coaching the tight ends. These guys are ballers. Our O-line is a bunch of dogs. And then I get to go and block for possibly one of the best guys to ever play at Wisconsin. And Ches Malusi is no joke either. These guys are great.
Like I said, we're still going to have a commitment to running the football. You know what I mean? I mean, truthfully, we all have things to work on, right? Across the board, position group to position group. But these guys are unbelievable. The big boys, it's breathtaking, when you walk into the room with them for the first time, how big these guys are, right? And then you talk about, you do some research, right? Hey, you figure out you're coming to Wisconsin, you need to be there in 10 days, do some research on the roster. Okay, you hear about this, Braylon Allen guy, this Ches guy. Okay, he's a big kid. You watch his tape and you see him in person, that's not him, that's a linebacker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No way this guy moves like that, so.
How much do you wish you had Braylon in the tight end room?
Oh,
what would you do with him as a tight end?
He has an open invitation, okay? If you're watching this, it's just a joke, but he has an open invitation no matter what.
But it's not a joke. I mean, you want him. I mean, you want the best athletes you can get in that room.
I think Coach Bicknell would take him as an offensive lineman. I think he's good of a player, you know what I mean? So I'm excited to see him in person, you know what I mean? On Saturday afternoons, obviously, right? So that'll be fun.
Because what are some of the you don't have to name specific names. So what are some of the coming out of spring ball, things that you've seen that you're wow, we really got better at these things?
Well, I think offensively, when you talk about just the operation of it, I think we struggled early. Just, the guys who have been entrenched in the older system, right? You're talking about somebody coming to a huddle, telling you the play. And then particularly if you're involved in the blocking unit, right? You come to the line of scrimmage and the communication happens inside out. There were all of these things happening. And to a degree, I think just speaking offensively, now you're looking at a signal, or you're kind of fending for yourself. There's no verbal communication. That takes some time. Mm-hmm. So I felt just the buy-in we had on that front was unbelievable. Observing just the defense, the speed at which the entire practice went, I think was really new. We had some guys who were definitely, hovering over some trash cans or, hunched over, looking for some wind to start practice. And that's not to say they didn't practice hard in the past, right? I think just maybe how we structure it is a little bit different, right? So it takes some time to get used to. But I thought our team speed, and that's something that Coach Fickell laid out as one of our goals, I did believe our team speed, maybe not our 40-yard dashes, but the way we went about playing the game increased, right? And I think that was a huge benefit for our entire football team. So, obviously we had some different skill sets. I felt all of the guys got better at running routes, catching the football, being competitive when the ball's in the air. Some of those, more particular specific skills. So I thought it was a great spring on the whole. We stayed fairly healthy, and it was great. So I'm very happy on that.
You bring up it. I didn't really ever think of that. I guess I should have, being an offensive guy, but people don't get it. When you're in the huddle, they say, I write 28 power, and literally you have like 20 seconds to think about it. So like in your head, you're like, I'm going to the left or right, whichever way. I'm blocking this guy. I know what I'm doing. Oh, it's on one. So I'm like, as we break the huddle, you're still thinking the play, what you're doing, what it looks like. You see the front. Like you have time to really look at everything and break it down in your brain. I guess what you're saying is, which would make it seem more difficult for guys to learn as the speed of the game is increasing, is you're just looking at a signal, you're turning around and you're going. That you're changing from like 30 seconds of visual, learning or visual aid to 10, 15 seconds. Like that's a huge difference.
Right. I mean, it really, that's not something that's taken into consideration enough, right? Is the operation, that's a big deal. And I don't think it's difficult, but like when you get accustomed, particularly some of those older guys who are in year 4, 5, 6, whatever it may be, they've played football a specific way for a long time now. You know what I mean? There's just like anything, like, the older you get, the harder it is to break habits. And, we had to train a new system. I had to train a new style. But like I said, those guys, like, they were awesome. They were awesome. So I was really pleased with them.
I think the speed of the game is what's going to make Wisconsin special, because you're going to have teams tired.
Yeah,
in the fourth quarter, you're going to have them tired.
And we still, we're still going to play complementary football. We're going to play great defense. I can guarantee that, right? And then obviously we hope we can put pressure on people. I think the beauty is that if we need to possess the football, like you just mentioned before, with our offensive line, our tailbacks, right, the history and tradition we have here, we can hold the football if we need to. But obviously we're going to be as explosive as we can. We're trying to score as many points as we can, push the ball vertically down the field. And I think it's going to be challenging on opposing defense. That's what's really, exciting for us, and add some tempo in there, and hopefully, we have some success.
Wait, and you said that Clay's doing much better?
Yeah, he's so I don't know if you don't
have to share his medical stuff. I
don't know. Like he's running, he's out there training, he's in the weight room.
He's just like one of my favorite players when we last season was he was special, dude.
He's great. Yeah, I mean it's a shame, what happened to him, but he approached his rehab perfectly, in my opinion. Stay around the guys, learn the offense as much as he could without doing it. But now he's out there, he's running sprints and pushing prowlers this morning, and, he's doing all the stuff he's supposed to be doing. So.
Excellent. Well, we like to hear that. And so we're not going to take up too much more of your time, but we got to know, we've been asking everyone this. You moved to Madison, you're new to Madison. What is your favorite place to eat?
Oh, man. I'll tell you what I really, really like is I like Lucille right there by the Capitol.
Pizza place.
The Detroit-style pizza. It's got a great little bar in there. I think it's fantastic. So in fact, I might try and go there tonight. Now that you
Coach, I love that pick.
I'm a big time, and I don't want to crown anybody with best cheese curd. I think that's dangerous territory to just proclaim that. I will say that Lucille has an excellent cheese curd appetizer option. Okay, so if you're hunting for something good, that's definitely a place to stop.
I have strong cheese curd opinions. I have very strong cheese curd opinions.
I do too.
And that's what I wanted to play the middleman there. You know what I mean? I wanted to offend no one.
No, you're doing the right thing. Pretty much anywhere you go that has a cheese curd isn't going to be a bad cheese curd.
Yeah, no question. It's like there's no such thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Coach, thank you so much. I'm sorry for all the technical difficulties, but
no,
it was a pleasure meeting you here. Matt and I will be there for Squat Fest to just be around.
Yes.
Can't wait.
You're going to love that. Okay. It's going to blow your, like, of everything you've seen so far, that's going to blow your mind the most.
No, I believe it. My dad already's like, don't try to go in there and put a bar in your back. You're too old. No, I'm like, no, Dad, there's not a chance that happens. Unless Braylon asked me to. Maybe I will. But I probably most likely won't. But it'd be great if we just bump into you. I think we'll be out in the office at some point. So we'll come and say hi. But thank you for your time and have a good time at Lucille's tonight.
Yeah, no, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so much, Coach. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the Believe in Badgers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, presented by betonline.ag and our friends over at Oakbridge Wealth Management. And until next time, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin. Hold the phone up. It's hard to do.
There we go. Thank you.